Hey, welcome to The Feast Life, where we empower you, the modern homeschool mom, to create a life and homeschool you love. I'm Julie Ross, the creator of the award-winning curriculum A Gentle Feast, a homeschool veteran of over 20 years, and a certified Christian life coach. Charlotte Mason said, life should be all living, not a mere tedious passing of time. So on this show, we seek to savor the feast of life. So go get your favorite beverage and pull up a chair. You're welcome at this table. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Feast Life. I am here today with Allyson, and I am so excited because we're going to be talking about travel schooling today. I must admit, Allyson, that I asked you to come on the podcast for totally selfish reasons. So you had posted something in the Gentle Feast members group about doing school while traveling, and you had just such great information. And I was like, I need to talk to her because this is something that is a goal for mine for next school year. And I need all the details. So this really is just for me. But I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be blessed from this as well. So thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
Sure, I'm excited. This is one thing I love talking about. So it's great to have a platform to do that.
Yeah. So give us a little bit of background on like you and your family and what got you all into traveling and doing school.
Okay, I did not grow up homeschooled. So homeschooling was new to me.
Yeah.
And from that, God sent an opportunity into our family's life to travel. And it actually took a while for me to come to terms with that calling. There was a lot of fear about, I just figured out this homeschooling thing. How am I going to transition this? I researched, I could not find very much at all about how to functionally homeschool on the road with a large family. So I felt like I was starting from scratch. My husband is an active duty and military in the Army, and he had a career change that led him to become a foreign area officer, which required our family to move to an embassy overseas. And his first year there was a training process, which required him to travel to as many embassies in the region of his specialty, which is Latin America, as possible. And we had made a pact early on in this military marriage that whenever it was possible, we were going to stay together. There's too many forced separations with deployments, and we'd been there, done that. We wouldn't want to do that again. That required me to figure out travel schooling. During our time in El Salvador, that was our station, we ended up traveling to 12 other countries in Latin America. All 8 of us. I have 6 kids, 12 wow. Between the ages of 12 and 4. So it was an adventure. Yeah. And we figured it out, and we fell in love with travel schooling. Since then, we've been to 10 other countries, and we've been to 27 states, and we are just really embracing this opportunity to learn and enrich our education through travel. So it's been fantastic.
That is amazing. So were all of these related to his work, or were some of these, no, we want to go here, we want to do this, we want to see these things as well?
So all of the travel in Latin America was related to his job. He would have to go visit the embassies there. And then we were able to take another 5 to 10 days within the country to just explore it. His job was to become an expert in the region of Latin America. So that meant going off the beaten path, seeing some of the important sites to the country's economy and religion and just the way the culture worked. But then we also had some freedom to pick and choose. So we really enjoyed researching the countries before we went. Actually, we were doing cycle 4, and we were going through Richard Halliburton's Book of Marvels, and we based a lot of what we saw on what we were learning while going through that book. And it was really helped the kids solidify what they were learning and internalize it. And they still talk about those things. It meant so much more than just copying it onto a map, actually.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So it was really cool.
Yeah, that's what's such a gift about that. Now, does he still have a job similar to that where you are traveling and doing work, or is it just more like now you have the bug and you're like, where can we go next?
Yeah, we have the bug. We actually got back from El Salvador last August, and we are now stationed at Fort Belvoir in Virginia. And he is going to school to get, as part of his training pipeline, to get a degree in international relations. Okay. But we really wanted to take advantage of the rich history in the Northeast. We had never lived here before. We based the cycle cycle 2. We were supposed to go to cycle 1, but we said no, we want to take advantage of
Yeah.
this revolutionary area, and we skipped to cycle 2, and we have traveled to Philadelphia and Boston, all of the major founding fathers sites here in Virginia, and it has just really enriched our learning about that area. And we'll find out next month if we'll be heading back overseas in the
Okay.
year 2026. So we're excited to see where it's going to take us next.
So it sounds like this year you geared your traveling based on what it is that you were learning about in history. Is that right?
We did. And I think that's a great way to look at it. When I talk to my military friends who are homeschooling, I say, take advantage of where you are. Really look at your curriculum. You don't have to do it in order. We skipped colonialization, and we'll go back to that next year. We found out we're going to be staying here in Virginia at least one more year. So we're going to go back and do colonization next year. But it's not important to go in order. It's important to really make your kids relate to what you're learning and help it stick. And so it's easy when you're constantly moving, like military or any other transient job, to do that, to really cater that homeschooling experience to real life and what you can see. And it's been great. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I do feel like there's so many families though that are interested in it where it's not necessarily for work. Like they
mhm.
either want to do, there's so many terms. Can you, there's like road schooling, travel schooling. How do you differentiate all of that? Or do you feel like it's mostly the same?
So I think travel schooling, when you hear that term, you can sometimes get stuck in a mindset of, hey, this is like road tripping constantly in an RV with my family or jetting all over the world. But
Yeah.
I really think that narrows it too much. And we should look at travel schooling as any opportunity to get out of our regular comfort zone and see something we might normally see and enrich our kids' educational experience based on seeing that. So whether that's just a weekend trip like we've been doing here to Boston and Philadelphia, or maybe you are going to get in an RV and go, or jet
Yeah.
around South America like we did. But I really think you should define it as any time you are using real life practical
Yeah.
experiences through travel to enrich your education.
That's a great way to look at it. And really, what an amazing opportunity that we have as homeschoolers, right? School doesn't happen sitting around your dining room table. Education is a life. And Charlotte Mason talks about that, about
Mhm.
she would take the kids to the British Museum when they were learning about the ancient civilizations. Let's look at these statues and things that came from these times rather than just read about it, like you said, in a book. And you're like, okay, this is really great. And it's a living book, the Book of Marvels, but seeing it in person is a whole different concept.
Yeah, I love to relate it to her stance on nature study. Imagine you just read your kids these nature journals like we do in Form 1, the Arabella
Yeah.
Buckley or whatever,
Yeah.
but you never take your kid outside.
Mm.
Sure, they're going to understand seasons
Yeah.
change and the flowers grow and die and insects. They're going to have a concept, but to really understand and internalize that, they need to be outside. They need to be doing that. And I feel like that's where travel schooling can really help solidify those same ideals through history and geography and science by getting out and actually experiencing them rather than reading about them.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I feel like a lot of us are probably like, yes, I want to do this. I want to go see these things. I believe in this. This is going to enrich our homeschool. Then there's the big but.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I feel like a lot of the objections that come to my head are time and money.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any thoughts on those? Or how have you
Ooh, that's a rough
approached
one. Where time, obviously, we're in a different situation with time and money as our travels in Latin America were paid for, but we also were able to go to Europe over Christmas and see 10 countries there, and that was on our own
that?
dime.
Amazing.
But we look at it really as an investment. Maybe we don't play every sport or we don't eat out. We really don't. But
Yeah.
we save, we have a special account that we save for travel because it has become so important to us. And when we get enough in there, we're planning our next trip and we're doing our next activity. We have found lots of tricks. For example, when we were in Europe, we found out that if we stayed for a month, our rental car cost would be half of what it was if we stayed 30 days and rented a car. It was half the cost of staying for 29 days and renting a car because we were able to get a monthly plan. So there's little tricks
Yeah.
like that where you can save a little money on that kind of thing. But it is a stressful leap to think about how expensive these things are. But also, like I said, traveling doesn't have to be around the globe. Find something local. Maybe take your kids to a local farm or drive 3 hours to a museum or a battlefield site. From just go do something. It doesn't have to be expensive, and it will still have that same enriching experience.
Yeah, a lot of museums and things like that have homeschool days and
Mhm.
work that school discount as much as you can.
Definitely. We do take advantage of those.
Yeah, so that's really great for thinking about the money. And there really are, and you might have some more resources that we can share too. There's so many just tricks and deals and just little things that you can find. But I love that your family sees it as a priority, as part of your family culture, and talk about all the time, like both time and money, right? We have a
Mhm.
limited amount of that. So what are your priorities? Put it towards those things, and then you can let some of the other things go. How much input do your kids have then? Because I love that. Okay, we're all going to save. We might not go out today because we're going to save. We're doing this thing. I love that kind of buy-in. Do they have other kind of buy-in to the trips and things that you're doing?
They do. When we travel to other countries, we found a great resource on YouTube called Time to Learn Geography Now. And it's a group of college guys that just give you a 15-minute overview of a country.
That
And
is awesome.
before we go, we like to watch one of those about the country we're going to, and they'll show various sites, some historical context, some geography, and we will talk to the kids and say, okay, what out of that did you see that you're interested in? And we will try, if we have time in that country, to let at least one child choose somewhere we go. Then maybe the next country another child chooses. If we're there for 10 days, we say, all of you choose something.
Yeah.
We'll try to
Everybody
pick
gets a
the one
day.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because their interests vary so much. So
Yes.
it really is important to make them feel like they have a say in what they're learning. So
Yeah.
we help
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. I think that's great. And that definitely helps build like motivation and excitement
Mhm.
when you're like, ooh, this is my day and this is my thing that I'm like getting looking forward to. The
Definitely.
other objection I hear is, oh, how are we going to get everything else done?
Yes, I get that
The
question
time makes
all
me
the
ready
time.
because, oh, that sounds really nice. But, and I think it comes down to what you're saying, right? Of viewing this is not a break from school. This is school. And
Mhm.
so, how do you approach that kind of mindset of still checking the boxes, but then also what do you do around your traveling and your trip to enrich it more as a school endeavor? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I think a lot of people, when they hear me talk about what we've done, assume we're on one big field trip. And
Yeah,
that's
right.
not the case at all. We work through one cycle of AGF a year, no matter where we're traveling. And we have just figured out how to take our school on the road. So we have started purchasing PDFs of almost everything instead of the printed versions. We
Mhm.
have a tablet with a stylus that we use. We like the iPad, but my kids can fill out their LA packets on there. We can scan in their math curriculum and they can fill it out on the tablet. So whenever we're in transitions, like cars or planes or trains or sometimes even boats, we pass out the tablets and
Yes.
they can get a solid lesson in. We also utilize a lot of the audiobooks from Hoopla or Libby or Audible or Scribd, which I think is now Everand. But we use those, and maybe things they used to would have read, we can now stream through our headphones on
Yeah.
planes and trains
Yeah.
and get a reading in. We do a lot of voice recording for narrations on our tablets or phones, and that's helped a lot. But there are so many options nowadays, and I think a lot of conservative Christian homeschoolers get in their head that they want to go back to this old way, right? We want those books and we want to hold them and we want to smell them. And
Yes, they're so pretty.
right, right. And I agree. And when we're home, we do like to use our books. But I think it can become almost a hindrance. So I can't take these with me.
Mhm.
We
Oh, yeah.
Technology is not inherently bad. I think we can sometimes get that idea too.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to find a way to we're so privileged to live in this time period where we have all this access and we can utilize it for good. And we have a YouTube premium subscription. So when we are needing to do a reading from our island story or Burgess Bird Book, we can pull that up on YouTube and we can download that. If you have the YouTube subscription, you can download your readings onto that, your hymns for your hymn study. We download those. And then when we're somewhere without internet, we can still do our school, still have those videos and those
Great
readings.
resources.
And
Yeah.
it really has been so much easier than I had made it up in my mind to be when I
Mm-hmm.
started exploring this.
Mm-hmm.
And now we can just decide spur of the moment to go somewhere and grab our two little tablets and we're off.
Yeah.
So it's been fantastic. And there is such a variety of options. We chose the iPad because it was an all in one. We could have all of our apps and we could
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
our PDFs and do it all in one. I know a lot of parents are hesitant to give their child access to apps and internet. And there's a Kindle Scribe, there's a writing tablet called Remarkable, and you can upload your books and your PDFs onto these tablets. And there's no internet, there's no apps if
Yeah.
people are hesitant to go with an all-in-one kind of thing. So
Yeah.
there are so many options to make it work for each family.
Yeah, that's a great way because you're not hauling a suitcase full of books everywhere you're going, right?
No,
Everybody can carry their own iPad in their backpack and have their readings and things. And so you're still following, okay, here's our course of study. You're just doing it in a different way. So I love that you were able to be creative and go, no, this is a priority. How can we fit this into what's a priority for us? Is there anything specific you do for the places you're going to in terms of reading or narrating or writing about them, anything like that?
yes. First of all, like I said, we've tailored what cycle we do based on where we are. We also tailor what readings we're doing based on where we're
Okay,
going. So,
good.
for
Yeah, that's
example,
awesome.
when we went to Philadelphia, we went through the whole year's curriculum and pulled everything related to Ben Franklin, and we did that first. And it doesn't matter what order you go in. They're I guess
Right.
we turned it into more of a unit study for each of these historical figures than doing the curriculum in order. But we got through every book. Same thing when we went to Boston. We pulled out all the Paul Revere stuff, all the Boston Tea Party stuff, went ahead and did that first. And that really gives kids a framework to put what they're seeing into. I think we can do kids a disservice by just taking them to see a museum or see a historic site if
Right.
they don't have anywhere to place that
Yeah.
into their house of knowledge. It's like giving them a bucket of wet concrete and they have nowhere to pour it. They're not going to be interested in what they're seeing and they're not
Yep.
going to retain it because they have nowhere to place it. So it is important before you go to introduce what you want them to pay attention to and give them some background to piece what they're seeing into. But that's been very helpful for us to do things that way.
Yeah, it's like what she was talking about with the living ideas are like the pegs, and then you can
Mm-hmm.
hang the facts on them. So you like the living ideas, the books you're reading, those are the pegs. And then when you go somewhere, that experience is what you're hanging on the peg.
It really does help it stick. So
Yeah.
definitely.
How I'm curious, like when you're going to these places and different things, what do you see coming out of your kids based on the ideas that they've had put into them before you're going?
Oh my goodness, it has been so fun. My daughter has just taken off in her creative writing. We do have the kids keep a travel blog about what they've seen and what they've learned. So everywhere we go, they will each choose one thing we saw and they will write a narration on it and we will put it up with pictures so they can go back and read it and back and
That's
see it.
fantastic. Yeah.
But my daughter, she decided all on her own that she was going to start writing a series of short stories about the places we've been, and she assigned a superhero power to all of her brothers and sisters. And everywhere they go, there's an adventure of the
Awesome.
Super Six, where they, in one installment, they saved some baby sea turtles after we'd done a sea turtle rescue on a beach. They saved the sea
Sea
turtles with
turtle,
their
that's my
powers,
favorite
or
animal.
they explored a volcano, an active volcano. And she's
Yeah.
just really, it's another way of narrating, not just telling what they did, but she's twisting it into a story. And it's been so fun to see her grow in that way. She's always been my creative one, but just the level up of that by doing
Yeah.
this. But
Yeah. It's like narrating, but making it your own and putting your own.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
it's been so fun. And the geography, they know more about world geography than I did when I had my first child. They know where everything is. They've been there. They know where it
Yeah.
is. They know how far it is to get across places. And it's so fun to see them internalize the passion that we have for traveling by doing that. So that's been really fun.
I imagine
But
they learn a lot
also,
of skills too that aren't necessarily like book skills.
they do.
Yeah.
That was a big draw to our decision to travel with my husband. Was we never know what God has planned
Yeah.
for our kids. We can't know that. So our job as parents is to prepare them for whatever that thing might be. And so one of the biggest bonuses to us is they know how to get through an airport. They know how to navigate a foreign city. They know how to order food in a country that doesn't speak their language. These are all real life practical skills that one day, if God calls them to mission work or living internationally, or even just navigating different big
Yeah,
cities
right.
in America, they're going to be able to do that and do that confidently. And that's a really important thing for
Yeah,
us,
and
is to
yeah,
have them never have to be uncomfortable in a new situation because they faced being uncomfortable in situations before.
yeah, it builds so much resilience and
It does.
strength that
It,
you can't really get any other way other than
no.
trying to
And you know
navigate
that
it.
the character, I think people always say about traveling, it changes your perspective, right?
Yes.
That's something we hear a lot. And I really didn't know how to put that until my son, Ty, he was 9, and he really discovered the meaning of empathy when we were in Mexico City. And out of all the weird places that happened, but we had just finished up cycle 3, learning about the Mexican American War, and we were
Mm,
down in Mexico City visiting this Chapultepec Castle, which is during the time of the Mexican Revolution. It was a military academy for boys ages 8 to 14 who were going to become Mexican military officers. And at the last battle, the 3rd Cavalry Regiment of the United States Army made it all the way to Mexico City. And all of the instructors from this, I lost my train. All of the instructors from this academy had to go out and defend the city.
mm,
And my kids' perspective of the world is very heavily set in patriotism. Their dad being in the military,
yeah, yeah.
all living near military bases, he's deployed 3 times, and they take this pride in our family is American.
Yeah.
And my husband was actually part of the 3rd Cavalry unit, the same unit that
Oh,
back from
wow.
the Mexican American War at one point. And that unit takes a lot of pride in how they won the last battle of the Mexican American
Yeah.
War. And so we're there and we're learning in Chapultepec Castle the Mexican side of the story. And just
Yep.
like we have our American folk heroes of that time period, like Davy Crockett and Sam
Yeah.
Houston, they have the fable of the 5 hero boys. And this is a set of boys, 8 to 14, 5 of them from the academy. And when the Americans reached the gates of the castle, they held them back. They organized the other cadets, and one of the boys ran up to the top of the castle, wrapped himself in the Mexican flag, and jumped off to his death to prevent Americans from getting the Mexican flag.
Wow.
And it was very emotional. The people are so proud of that legend of theirs. They are so proud of it. They take so much pride in it. And we were sitting there going through an exhibit of that. And you look up at the atrium of this giant castle, and it's a huge mural of the boy jumping down toward you. And my
Mm,
9-year-old is standing there looking up at this painting. And he's staring at it for quite a long time. And then he looks over at my husband and he goes, "Are we the bad guys?" And it
oh,
was just this
yeah.
mental shift, you know what I mean? And it brought
Mhm.
so much good conversation about how there's not good guys and
Yeah.
bad guys in these situations where it's messy. And we are proud of our heritage of that, and they're proud of their heritage of that. And just ever since then, he has been the first of my kids to want to see other people's sides of stories when there's an argument or out in the neighborhood playing with it. Let's make
Yeah.
sure everyone, like, we know what everyone's side is. Let's try to work it
Yes.
out. And he wasn't like that before, but that really changed him. And
Um,
that's the best way I can illustrate like a change of perspective your child can have.
Today's episode is brought to you by A Gentle Feast. A Gentle Feast offers a complete living books curriculum, an award winning early reading program, and more tools to equip you to apply Charlotte Mason's timeless philosophy into your modern homeschool. Go to agentlefeast.com to check it out. Smooth and easy days are closer than you think.
Through
Wow.
travel.
That that is such a powerful story, and that's like such a power to just stories in general. And that's why I will be on my soapbox forever about the importance of reading living books with your children, because that's where they get to put themselves in someone else's shoes and
Oh
develop
yeah.
that
Oh
empathy.
yeah.
And I love, and Charlotte Mason says that too, right? Like when you're studying about character and Plutarch, and there's not a good guy and a bad, like you can see both sides of people and why
Yeah.
they made the decisions that they did, and that opens your child's eyes, and you can't get that from a textbook full
No.
of, but like to experience it in real life,
Mm-hmm.
that is a whole nother total different world as well. And not just
Yeah.
reading a living book is super powerful, but then getting to like experience that is so powerful and so key. And it's not something that you can necessarily plan for, right?
No,
It's
we did
like
not.
the divine teacher is working and we're just following and doing what we're doing. And then he's at work in our kids' lives. And that's so cool too, because I think it's like, how are we going to fit all this in and how are we going to make sure that we do all the stuff? And it's very important to keep that going as you're traveling and things, but also like you're opening up for possibilities that you wouldn't have otherwise. So that's
Yeah.
a really cool story. Thank you so much for sharing that. So my other thought was, and maybe you hear this from people, when people talk, like when I tell people about homeschool, they're like, oh, that's so nice. I would never have the patience for that. And I'm like, neither do I. But okay. And so when I think about traveling, it's okay. Wow, you have 6 kids. So that's a lot of people to get from point A to point B, and a lot of people who have different opinions and ideas. And I want to do this and I want to do that. So have you had that before? I would love to travel, but I don't know if I have the patience for that. How do you manage all the people?
How do I manage all the people? Okay. The best advice I can give is be a minimalist. I like to tell people when you hear about these big travels, you're going on multi-week or month
Yeah, that's a lot.
trips.
Yeah.
It's like if you've never done it before, it's like you're having your first baby and you think you need all the things. You need the changing table and the crib and every single little knickknack, the car seat hanging toy, everything, right?
Yeah.
By the time you have your third or fourth or fifth or even sixth kid, you're like, I really just need an
Here's a
empty
stick.
dressing table
Yeah.
and some blankets. Like you realize like all that stuff, while it was nice, is not necessary.
Yeah.
And that's where you come when you're traveling. You come to this point of, oh, we're gone for a month. Everybody just needs their backpack with 3 changes of clothes and a toothbrush. And that
Yeah.
is what traveling with a big family, that's what makes it possible. We cannot drag 6 suitcases
Yeah.
through airports and on trains and over old ancient cobblestone streets. That's just not something we can do. So we have made it where we can travel now for 40 days with everyone having one backpack on their back.
Wow.
And that has made a big difference in navigating everybody.
Yeah.
And there also just comes a point when you have that many people, and ours are very close in age, they're all less than 2 years apart, that you just got to do what we say. Like at some point, yes, I know you want that too, but we're at some point, we are not big screen families, but when we are on like 6 8 hour flights, we will have downloaded some shows on our tablets, pass those out. That keeps everybody really happy. We have our magical be quiet sticks, which are lollipops. So when someone is getting way out of control, we hand a lollipop over. That's not happening all the time, but that helps in an emergency situation. But it is a lot of times we'll assign a buddy. Like my husband will have 3 kids and I'll have 3 kids. We make sure
right.
we're watching our own 3.
Yeah, you don't want a Home Alone situation.
We've only lost a kid a couple times. So
Yeah. Where is everybody? Yeah.
Everybody knows to take it back to the tall blonde people. It's not been hard. It has not been bad. I had chalked it up in my mind before I did it. You don't know what you don't know. And I had this fear of the unknown. And once we
that's
got
what I'm
out
trying to dispel, like common objections I hear from.
Yeah.
Great.
Once we got out there and did it, it was like, oh, this is not what I thought it was. People are so excited and receptive to tourists, especially tourists that bring their families, because it is a very uncommon thing to travel with a big horde of children. And everyone is so kind and they will love your kids. We had issues having to ask people to please give our kids some space. They wanted to pet their hair and take pictures with it. That's fine. It's a cultural thing. And sometimes you just got to get used to a culture if you don't know it. But it really is. And I feel like it's one of those things like the baby. You can tell a new mom, you don't need all this stuff. You don't need all this stuff. I can say you don't need to worry about it. You don't need to worry about that. But there's some point of until you get out there and do it, you aren't going to believe me. And that's a scary place to be. And I was there. And I like to also equate it to when you make that choice to homeschool. You're like, oh my gosh, can I do this?
I need all the curriculum, all the stuff. Yeah.
Right. And I love what you say when you're starting off a gentle feast, when you say just add one subject at a time. Just ease into it. And we didn't do that. We were thrown into the fire. But I think that it's the same thing. Like you just have to start. Just start. Make it a weekend trip your first time and come home. But get out there and do it. And you're going to see, hey, this is not what I had chalked it up to be. This is not as scary as I had made it out. And it's hard, but you can do it. You can. I'm a firm believer that anybody can travel school, whether it be the weekend trip. Maybe that's all you can do. Maybe that's all you can afford. Maybe that's where God has you in your life. Or you could do these multi-continent trips, but there
Yeah.
is some way you can do it, and just try it, and you will be so richly blessed by trying it.
Ah, do you have any recommendations on where do you all stay?
Okay. We have had the best luck
Because six
with
kids,
this.
there's a lot of people to find.
We have had a lot of success with booking.com. I don't know
Okay.
if you've heard of that site,
Yeah.
but it compiles hotels and Airbnbs and all sorts of different places. And those have been the cheapest places we have found to stay. We have stayed in some pretty crazy places with that. A medieval castle in the
What?
Netherlands. And that
Okay,
just,
I'm jealous.
yeah, we
I
stayed
bet
in
it was
a
drafty though.
interesting right across the hall from our room. There was one of the little like dungeon cells, and you could look in and see like fake
My,
skeletons. It was an experience, but but
I ain't sleeping tonight.
it was so fun though. And like that, we had no idea what we were driving up on, but we ended up staying in a resort in Nicaragua on a volcanic crater lake. And we pulled
Oh
up, we're
wow.
like, wow, this is cool. And
Oh my goodness.
it's just
Do
been,
you
it's,
find these ahead of time or like booking.com actually has these kind of things?
yeah, they do. And
Wow.
that's where we found all of these places we've stayed. Yep, they have hotels, they have the Airbnbs, and you can
Wow.
get as creative or not. We stayed in Holiday Inn Expresses booked on booking.com, but we are inexpensive travelers. Obviously, you're traveling with 8 people.
Yeah.
So we get on there, we filter down our price range, we choose usually the cheapest thing that doesn't have terrible reviews, and
Yeah.
it's a great resource for finding inexpensive places to stay, even in the States. So
Okay, yeah, that's great. Do you have any tips or what do y'all do like about food too? Because feeding a lot of people is always fun.
it is fun. So when we are going, we always try to pack at least 1 or 2 meals that will last. In Latin America, it was really tricky because we never knew if we were going to find a restaurant or not. It's nothing
Yeah,
like here where you can
yeah,
just get off
right.
an interstate. So we would pack a jar of spaghetti sauce and a pack of spaghetti, just dry. That's something that can ride in the back of the car in our bag. Our kids had many nights where they had microwave popcorn for dinner because we just didn't find a restaurant, but we were able to have a bunch of that stuff stocked up. When we are out, we eat at a lot of more street vendory things than
Okay.
restaurants to
Yeah.
keep costs down, and it can make everybody happy because there's more of a choice. But that's the same worldwide. Markets are fun, but it has not been prohibitive. We always have a loaf of bread and peanut butter and jelly in the back for emergencies. That's none of my kids' favorite, but
Yep,
if
mine either.
you can't find a restaurant, that's what you're going to eat.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's been doable. It's been good, but I would always recommend having something just in case. And when
Yes.
we're traveling for weekends, I try to bring one breakfast and one dinner, just
Okay.
so we can get there, not have to worry about leaving for food. We have one breakfast prepared. The
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
trip I brought all the breakfast, but but yeah, that's an easy meal that you don't want to have to go
Yes.
out and find. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
that definitely saves costs there for sure. And some granola
Mhm.
bars and things like that are always good to have on hand. What other tips would you have for parents wanting to consider this option from a
I would
practical
say
perspective?
I would say lots of prayer. And I would say definitely look for supplemental material if you are traveling outside the US. We found
Okay.
a lot of great living books about children in Honduras and Panama that we were able to do as a family read aloud to make that stick. But the biggest advice I have is, like I said earlier, just pray about it and let God lead you to try it. Just
Yeah.
that's going to sound like a broken record, but you will you will love it. It will change you, and it's fantastic. And don't, like I said, don't overthink it. Like, just you can do it with a backpack, even if you don't believe me. But it is, I don't even know a way to describe it. Just how much our whole family dynamic has changed as we
Mm.
are closer as a family. Our kids have grown so much in their character and their faith. You see so much of God's beauty. You get used to it when you live where you live and you don't leave. It
Right.
becomes mundane, it becomes normal. And
Yeah.
to go out and see the diversity of what God has made, that He loves diversity and that He is so creative. And it's just things that we tend to forget about. We kind of place in the back of our mind most days when we don't go out and see other things. And it's so important, I think, to learn about who God is and not become complacent with that. And I think we can, if we're not making that a priority too, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. That makes complete sense. And you talked about you have some resources that you're going to share with us.
Sure. Most of it I've mentioned, my hardware and software. Definitely try to go as much virtual as you can. Not virtual, but electronic as you can. It would not be possible without being able to only need our tablets. We would not be able to do school.
Like a long trip. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So yeah, short trips are a little different. We invested in a great Bluetooth speaker and we do our family read alouds all together in the car with on an audiobook. But I would definitely invest in the tablets and make sure you're utilizing all of these awesome free resources for audiobooks and for the video links. Like I said before, the YouTube Premium has been great. We can get all of our morning time stuff access on there and several of our chapter books read aloud and several of the picture books read aloud. So definitely think about the apps, think about the electronics, and try to think what other tips. If you want like general travel tips, there's some great travel car seats we've utilized that fold up and go into our backpack.
Oh, wow.
One is, yes, for little kids, there's a ride safe vest that buckles around them like a harness and buckles into the car. And for the kids and boosters, there's a MyFold car seat, which just folds up into the size of a small clutch purse. And so we use those when we're traveling with littles, which has been really helpful. I don't know how many people are interested in traveling internationally where you have to be careful about the water you're drinking and the produce you're eating, but we have found the Sterilite, which is a pin about this long and 5 inches, and you turn it on and it's a UV light and you stir your water bottle and your water's safe to drink. We've traveled all over. I traveled all over India and our family's traveled all over Latin America, third world countries, and no one has ever gotten sick. That's a game changer because you don't have to worry about buying water. If you don't have that, you have to find somewhere to.
That's heavy to carry around.
It is. So yes, there's those, and just general tips. I'm sure people know, but packing cubes. I don't know if anyone's heard of those, but those are fabulous.
Yes, I use those when I travel.
Yes, and help us fit about 3 times as much as we could without them. We do have the good set of headphones for each of the kids, so they can plug in into their school. But yeah, I wish I had more. We will put the links, right?
Yes, yeah, we'll put these in the show notes for sure.
Yeah. So everything I talked about under there, so people can go and research what they might want to buy for a trip. But
yeah, that's all super helpful. Yeah, I feel like it's okay. I could spend hours online looking at all this stuff. I just need to tell me what to get.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we've got laundry sheets that are about the size of a 3x5 card, and you can either hand wash in a sink with them or throw them in a washing machine. So those are great. We've switched completely to bar shampoo and conditioner, so we can take it through airport security and it takes up way less space in your bag. So there's a lot of little things that can make traveling easier.
Yes, that's good to know. Yeah. I have a feeling like I could just see my 14-year-old right now with all her skincare products trying to put all those into a backpack to take somewhere. And I'm like, that is not going to work, girl.
No.
We do not need all that stuff.
You don't need it.
We're going on a 4-day whitewater rafting camping trip with 1,000 hours outside down in Moab, Utah. So yeah, none of the skincare is coming.
Yeah, no. No.
But I'm excited because like I said, like this is a really big goal for mine for this year, just with my kids and their ages and the different life experiences we've had. It was like, okay, I don't have that much time before one of my other kids graduates.
Yeah.
So like, this is the last year we have to do some of this. So we are going to do it. I'm excited. Yeah, we're doing the American stuff. So we'll be the Boston and the Philadelphia and the Washington, D.C. and all the stuff. It sounds like you got to go to too. So that's really exciting.
Yes, it will change your perspective on American history for sure. I never thought I was a history person until I started going to these places. And I'm like, oh, I am a history person. I like this.
That's why I think I love history so much is because my dad loved history. And so when I was growing up, he'd be like, where do you want to go for vacation? We could go to Colonial Williamsburg or we could go to Busch Gardens Amusement Park. And I'd be like, I want to go to Williamsburg. And so it would take me. So like growing up, all of our vacations were always some historical place. and I would just fall in love with, we did go to Plymouth and we did go to Jamestown and like all these places, and it was like this, and I think that's why I love history so much. And so I do give that gift to my
Kindle
kids.
that in your kids as well. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So do you have any closing words or words of encouragement for people who, as they consider travel schooling?
I would just, like I said, I would encourage you to be open about it. Take that leap of faith. It's going to feel insurmountable at sometimes, but just take the little step. Prepare as much as you can. Like I said, we'll have the links below. I'm also going to include my email in the link, and I would love if anyone wants to reach out. Like I said, I'm very passionate about helping people, empowering people to feel like they can do this too, because it has had such a powerful impact on our lives. So right now, as a volunteer ministry, I am happy to travel consult with people. So please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to talk more about any experience we had and share any more tips or specific questions anybody has, because this really is my passion.
And can I ask, did your kids speak Spanish when you went there, or did they learn it there, or how'd that go?
No, we have used the talkbox.mom
Uh-huh.
curriculum when we found out that we would be moving overseas. And they know a little bit, but they don't know, they're not fluent. My husband is fluent. Part of his training was the military paid for a language school.
Yeah.
So he got us by, but it's so fun to see them realize like they don't need to know all the words. They are passionate about learning the words. Every time they go, okay, how do I say this? How do I say this? And it's so fun to see that. And I really think Charlotte Mason was huge on language, right? She was passionate about being able to relate to people in their native tongue.
Yeah.
And my kids didn't really understand that necessary part of education, that core belief of reaching out to other people, until we got back from our trip in South America. And we went out to eat at a restaurant at my in-laws. We'd been back a couple of weeks, and the waiter came to take our order, and my 4-year-old looks up and he goes, he's speaking in my words. He realized, and I think we got to talking about that with the family, and I think the kids just realized, wow, that made such an impact hearing our language, even though we were back, but they hadn't heard it. And that really sparked them, not while we were down there, but after we got back and they put it together. They're now a lot more passionate about learning how to communicate with people. So that's been really fun too. And the language is not necessary. People are so kind and so
I wanted to bring that up because I think that's another barrier. People are like,
so kind, and they really want to understand you. They will sit there and they will spend way longer than I probably have the patience for trying to fully understand what we were asking for at times. But it was really beautiful to see that communication can be outside of language, and you can really learn about a person, relate to a person, even if you don't have that, but also what an impact it does make.
Get some motivation there to try to learn some of that. I love this conversation so much, Allyson. Thank you so much. And it's so sweet of you to offer these resources to everyone. So we'll definitely put this in the show notes.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited I got to talk about it.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this episode, please heart it down below and make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. Leave a comment and let me know what you learned in today's episode. I'd love to hear from you.